Okay. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. So today, the date is October 14th. The time is 10:39 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. My name is Mohammed Faisal. I'm one of the chief examiners at Nafi. I'm a bit under the weather, have a sore throat, so my voice may change its tone, and at times it may become husky. It may become like a bit heavier. So let me know if you cannot understand what I'm saying. Um, we have today with us Mubashir Zakir. Mr. Mubashir Zakir is going for his diploma in artificial intelligence operations, EduQual level 6, RQF level 6 exam. The topic that you have is cross-border data governance framework using Apache Atlas, Data Hub, and policy as code for EU and GCC jurisdictions. Develop a cross-border data governance solution. The objective or the overview is for multinational enterprises that ensures GDPR and DIFC, DP law, and Bahrain PDPL compliance. Student must build a data catalog for automated lineage, metadata tagging, and governance rule enforcements via policy as a code. Okay. There are specific 5 key learning objectives related to data governance tools, policy as a code, PAC as we call it, and tagging, compliance mapping, industry applications, and open source and cloud native tools in Fusion that you have to show. The examination is a pretty straightforward examination. You'll be given minimum 15, maximum up to 25 minutes to present your topic, um, your presentation, followed by a Q&A that can last anywhere between 30 to 40 minutes. The whole exam can take somewhere between 45 to 60 minutes to complete. This is the part 2 of your AI Ops exam. Okay. Um, are you ready, Mubashir?
Yes, I'm
Do
ready.
you have any questions for me before we start?
No.
Okay, you may share the screen. Once I start the timer, I will let you know. Okay, Bismillah, you may start now.
Okay. So today's my topic is a cross-border data governance framework using Apache Atlas, Data Hub, and Policy as Code for European Union and Gulf Cooperation Council jurisdictions. So basically, this is our data governance solution involving different regions of the world, like Europe and Gulf, and we have to ensure that the data is uh, protected in a way and secured in a way and transmitted in a way that it the data breach does not happen. So the rise of global enterprises has created a critical need for frameworks that manage data governance across borders. Organizations operating in EU and GCC must comply with multiple overlapping regulations. So these are the laws which we are bound with to. I mean, we have to follow these laws in so that data breach do not happen. These laws are General Data Protection Regulation. It is a law for European Union. Then we have Dubai International Financial Center Data Protection Law, which is the UAE law. And then we have Bahrain PDPL, Bahrain Personal Data Protection Law. So this project develops a cross-border data governance solution that enforces compliance through number one, we have metadata catalogs, and we have two tools, Apache Atlas and Data Hub for data catalogs. And then these catalogs will do automated lineage tracking. Uh, Automated lineage tracking like tracking from where the data originated, who were the previous owners, and who is the current owner. Then we have policy as code enforcement tools like OPA and MACDA. OPA is Open Policy Agent, and we will see later what the OPA does. Then we will do encryption and key management. And then we have the cloud native deployment across the cloud providers such as AWS, Azure, and GCP. So, what are our main objectives of this project? You will deploy a metadata catalog with data discovery, metadata tagging, and data lineage. We will implement policy as code for retention, access control, and cross-border restrictions. We will use OPA for that. Then we will map compliance requirements between these European Union and GCC jurisdictions. We will demonstrate end-to-end encryption and jurisdiction-based key separation, and then we will look how these affect industries such as finance, healthcare, and consulting. So, what is our main architecture? Since the main architecture of our data governance solution, in that we have some components, main components, and for that we have Apache Atlas Data Hub for metadata management and lineage, OPA Magda for policy enforcement, Keycloak, that is a very important tool for identity and access management, and the identity and access management is a key area, and this is also happens to be the domain 5 of CISSP, so it is a very important area. Then we have Terraform for infrastructure as code, cloud providers for multi-region hosting and encryption, which is transport layer security in transit, and key management service at rest when the data is at rest. So when we have data sources like databases, files, streams, they get registered in our data catalog, such as Apache Atlas. That these catalog they give they give data tagging to the data, so that as to identify each data as a unique item. And these tags include are the GDPR tags and GCC tags, which we apply to them. Policies, which like open policy agent control access based on region and data classification. Then we have Keycloak, which ensures tiered roles. Admin will have separate role, compliance person has separate will have separate role, analyst will have separate role. Then Terraform for consistent infrastructure across cloud. Then we have encryption, which secures data across jurisdictions. Now the implementation part. Our metadata catalog will be deployed in Kubernetes cluster because it is a cloud native solution. So we have involved the microservices on which we have developed this whole architecture. So we have deployed that on Kubernetes clusters. We have automated schema discovery, which means that if we add any new data set, like we go to AWS and we select that we will have one more S3 bucket for data, the catalog will automatically detect that a new thing has entered our system, and it will automatically detect and give a tag to it. Then we have lineage graphs showing upstream, downstream data flows, which means that who were the previous owners of the data, who is the current owner, and what is the current location of that data in our system. So we have custom enrichers which apply tags such as these: personal data, sensitive data, financial data, health data. These are metadata tags which we apply to the data so as to enrich them and identify them as a unique item. Then the main thing we have is policy as code, in which we use open policy agent, which is a open source policy enforcement tool, and open policy agent, this uses a language called Rego. And what does it do? OPA governs, I mean, governs the whole, they have I mean, OPA is written in Rego language code, and that code detects whether the data can be accessed or not. It when there is a new request for data access, the OPA checks through its code that whether we have to deny or we have to accept that request. For example, we have this code in which the our code is doing is restricting European Union personal data from being accessed in GCC. So this is our code, which is input.data. This is basically Rego code, and the main thing is it is checking is whether the data can be accessed in another region or not. Then we have compliance mapping. In compliance mapping, we have multiple requirements such as data subject rights, breach notification, cross border transfer, consent, encryption. First, we will see the data subject rights, which in GDPR, which is the European Union law, the data subject rights are broad. They, they are broad in nature. In DIFC law, which is the UAE law, the data subject rights are strong, similar to GDPR. In Bahrain, they are a bit fewer, a basic level. The breach notification for GDPR is 72 hours. For DIFC law, it is reasonable time frame, and for Bahrain PDPL, it is also reasonable time frame. For cross-border transfer, so for GDPR, we have advocacy or SCCs. These are basically contracts like adequacy contracts or SCC contracts, which they check whether the data can be these laws check whether the data which is being accessed can be given or not. Then we have DIFC law for cross-border transfer. It must meet DIFC standards. For Bahrain, it is restricted. Then we have consent. For GDPR, it is explicit and informed. For DIFC, it is explicit, and for Bahrain PDPL, it is explicit. Then we have the encryption part, which for the GCC, it is required by both UAE and Bahrain. But for GDPR, it is recommended that you encrypt your data. It is a standard practice. Then we have encryption and key management. So we have to encrypt our data, and for encryption, we use for multiple cloud providers. There is AWS key management service, Azure Key Vault, and GCP key management service, and they have jurisdiction specific keys. We use the transport layer security 1.2 and 1.3 for the in transit data, and for the data at rest, the key management service encrypts it. We have regional separation of encryption keys for both EU and GCC. And encryption is a very important part because as required by the your UAE and Bahrain, it is required, it is a must to comply for. And encryption is very important, and we use TLS, transport layer security, and KMS for encryption. Then we have identity and access management, and we have key cloak for that. Identity and access management, we use key cloak. Key cloak is basically they check whether the uh, whether the employee or admin what kind of access it has, whether they can be access to a proportionate, they it is a proportionately uh, key cloak sees whether the employee or the person is authorized to access the data or not. For admin, it is full access. For compliance officer, it is metadata and audit logs only. For analyst, it is access to anonymized or non P2 data. Then we have multi-cloud automation, which is Terraform. This is infrastructure as code tool, and we use it for infrastructure provisioning for like Kubernetes clusters, storage, identity and access management. Basically, it helps us to automatically manage our IT infrastructure through code rather than manually checking, manually setting our IT infrastructure. This is a automation tool, a very important tool. Then we have industry applications. For multiple industries, we see that these cross-border data governance solution is very helpful. For finance industry, it ensures sensitive transaction data remains compliant. The healthcare industry sees that it protects medical records across hospitals in European Union and GCC. And for consulting company, it enables compliance for client data hosted in multiple jurisdictions. So, in conclusively, this framework provides a scalable cloud-native approach to cross-border data governance by combining metadata catalogs, policy as code, identity and access management, and encryption. Organizations can ensure compliance with both EU and GCC data protection regulations. And the most important thing is that it is a cloud native approach. So it is basically depends on microservices. So this is a modern approach, and this cloud native approach is the way forward for the sustainability of our code. So that's it from my side.
Well, thank you for your presentation. Let's jump into the Q&A. Bismillah. So you can stop the sharing of the screen, please, if you can. Okay. All right. So the presentation that we have right now is missing a couple of things, but we'll discuss that later on. So what core, what is the core, so what are the core problems does a cross-border data governance framework solve for the enterprises operating in both the EU and GCC? What's the difference?
So basically, in a transforming world, the need for securing data is increasing day by day. So, for securing that data, enterprises have to modernize their approach in protecting their data, that data breach does not happen, and whether the data is stored correctly, whether they can use the data. And so basically, the protection of the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of data is very important.
So that's a generalization on, it's like a generalized way of like saying what is important, but like what core problem does a core border, right? So what is the core problem? Like in the context of your presentation, does a cross-border data governance framework solve for enterprise operating in both EU and GCC? And I'm talking in the context of the cross-border data governance framework.
Core problems, basically, the data does not get breached.
Well, so let me
And
give you the answer. The answer is because you were able to generalize it, so you got some score out of that mark. But like so, it unifies metadata, policy and compliance enforcement to ensure that data processed in multiple jurisdictions remains consistent with each region's privacy law. For example, GDPR, DIFC, DP law, Bahrain, PDPL, all of these different laws, while maintaining lineage, encryption, and lawful transfer boundaries, right? That's what I was looking for. That's what I was like asking you, because the question was in the context of cross-border data governance framework, right? Okay. All right. So the first five questions are like on the easier side. That's the power play that you can do. Which open source components are used for metadata management, and what specific functions do they perform?
For metadata management, we use metadata catalog tools such as Apache Atlas, and Data Hub.
Hmm.
These are the main tools for metadata, for basically governing what data we have, from where it is sourced, what are the owners, what is the location of that data, what new data we have.
Okay. What is the purpose of the OPA and MAGDA in the framework that you presented?
So OPA, which is Open Policy Agent, or MAGDA, this is a open source policy enforcement tool. So basically, it checks through its code, which is written in Rego language, that whether the data can be accessed or not, whether the data, the GCC, for example, the GCC data can be accessed on the European Union, or can the European Union data be accessed in the GCC region. So this is the main thing of Open Policy Agent or MACDA, to enforce these laws.
So essentially, the OPA, they implement the policy as a code expressing data access and retention rules in Rego, as you mentioned, that
Yes,
automatically enforces compliance and prevent unauthorized cross-region data movement, right? That's the main purpose of
yes.
OPA. Okay, how does the key cloak integrates into the governance architecture that you presented?
So Keycloak is the identity and access management tool. So it integrate. I mean, the question is how it integrates into the data governance solution.
Yes, and basically, the key cloak that you have presented, how does it integrates into the governance architecture of your presentation?
It is a main component of our data governance solution,
Mhm.
and it is basically from Terraform. We use Terraform as infrastructure as code tool to integrate the overall IT infrastructure, which includes Keycloak, which is IAM.
Okay. You have to provide like your answers needs to be it's in line with the exam, but when you go for the interview, you need to provide better answers in terms of like expressing yourself, right? So, for example, Keycloak provides role-based identity access management, right? The admins have full right control, compliance officers can access metadata and logs, analysts see only anonymized data, thus supporting least privilege and regulatory accountability, right? So that is the proper answer you have to give in terms of explaining to me if you want to go for a job interview, right? Okay, so let's jump in. Uh, give me give an industrial example, right? Where this framework directly can improve compliance. Give me the one that you have designed. Give me an example.
For like healthcare industry, the patient data record, we have patient
Yep.
data record.
How? Explain it to me.
uh, the patient data record is stored in our data catalog, such as Apache Atlas, and that data record is secured, is basically is is in our system, it becomes a part of our data governance solution, and but it become part of a solution to as to improve the performance of the company, like that either that patient data we have, they can benefit the company in the future or not, and either that or that it is a useless data, so the company may choose to discard it, so the company can use its data to improve its performance in the future. uh,
So let me ask you something, okay?
yes,
If I use this framework in a healthcare setting, should we anonymize the data within, if the data is residing within EU, so that different GCC clinics can access it?
yes.
Why? Explain that to me, please.
So basically, the GCC clinics can use that data if they are pertaining to the same industry like healthcare industry, so as to improvise their performance, use that data, whether the arc
So let
whether
me
the
let me
company.
give you
Yes,
like a quick breakdown, right? So I'm living in Saudi Arabia, right? And we are opening, inshallah, our own clinics, right? Nafi clinics, inshallah, in Saudi and UAE, right? So that's the healthcare project that we always wanted to lift off. Inshallah, we'll be doing so in the next 1 year. So let me ask you something. I'm a patient at Nafi Healthcare in Saudi Arabia, and a doctor wants to check my files, right? Or the data of the GCC of the Saudi Arabian patients while sitting in Abu Dhabi in UAE, right? Should he be allowed to access the data like without anonymization or with anonymization?
without anonymization.
But are you sure?
Yes, because the identity has to be, I mean, we should know the identity who is accessing the data. That is
No, I'm not
basically
saying
the
who's accessing the data. I'm saying, can the doctor in Dubai should be allowed to view my records while I'm in Saudi Arabia? I'm not his patient. Can he see my data anonymized or in plain text he can see it?
uh, in plain text he can see it, but yes.
No. So like even like in EU or like in Saudi Arabia, each of these countries, the GCC countries, the reason you were given a GCC country topic is there are lots of jobs coming in the GCC country, right? And in Saudi Arabia, in UAE, and all these places because of the digitization that they're going through right now, right? So this is one of the questions that the employers can ask you. So no, the answer is no, because the reason is there are data residency and data sovereignty and data privacy laws of Saudi Arabia. If I'm in Saudi Arabia and I'm a Saudi citizen, right, which I'm applying right now. So, but imagine I'm a Saudi citizen, right? And that will enforce all the Saudi privacy, security, and privacy laws on myself, on my profile. So if there is a clinic, a Nafi clinic in Saudi Arabia, and there's an Nafi clinic in Dubai, if the doctor wants to see patient related data, he can see what diseases are common in Saudi Arabia right now, but he can't see specific patient information. Like he can't see Muhammad Faisal, what is he doing, why is he coming to the doctor, etc., etc. If he wants to see it, he can only see anonymized data. That XYZ patients are coming to doctors on a weekly, monthly basis to see this, right? So that's very important because, anonymization is one of the key principle, even the GDPR, right? Article 44, which talks about transfer restrictions and PDPL rules, right? So that's the fundamental thing that you need to memorize. 5, 6. Okay. Let's jump on to the tough questions. Explain, you know, in your presentation, the presentation is good, but it doesn't have any diagrams, right? You're supposed to put in like architecture diagrams, flows, and many things, right? There's nothing. Uh, so there are different presentations. I would say areas that we evaluate, like content mastery, organization, presentation skills, use of visuals, and usage of AI tools, right? So I will discuss your scores with you at the very end. But one of the things which is missing was like I couldn't see if you develop any framework, any diagrams to show your topic implementation, right? Okay, so let's jump in. And this is something you wanted to do, the CI/CD. You said like you are practicing CI/CD, right? Pipelines and stuff. So in a multi-cloud deployment, right? You're doing a multi-cloud deployment. How does Terraform help ensure compliance during infrastructure drift or update?
So, as a infrastructure as code tool, Terraform basically automates our infrastructure architecture, IT infrastructure. Uh, it cancels the manual part. We have
Yeah.
we have the Terraform is written in HCL code, and through that code we can manage our whole IT infrastructure, including Kubernetes clusters and the cloud AWS or identity and access management.
Okay. Do you want me to give you the answer?
Yes.
So the question was, in a multi-cloud deployment, how does Terraform help ensure compliance during infrastructure drift or update, right? That was my question. So this is how you have to provide the answer. Terraform, what it does is by maintaining state files and execution drift detection, Terraform highlights configuration deviations, example, mistagged resources, wrong regions, wrong zones, you know, resource allocation, etc., etc. You can throw in Kubernetes cluster, all of those applications, etc., etc. And that enforces corrective actions through controlled CI/CD pipelines. That was the answer, right? So when the interview is done, go back and listen to the questions that I asked and listen to the answers that you provided. That will give you a good feedback because you have to do lots and lots of labs because the labs will enable you to understand how and what thing needs to be done, right? This is very important for you, Mubashir, okay? So take this as a very important feedback, inshallah. Uh, if an analyst accidentally receives EU personal data, right, in GCC workspace, what automated response should occur? Like, for example, you're working as an analyst, right? And you are based in Abu Dhabi, right? For example, right? So we have a clinic here in Canada. The name is not Nafi Clinics. Its name is Cedar Brae Medical Center, right? Because it's on the road Cedar Brae Road, right? It's in front of the Cedar Brae Mall. So we just named the clinic as Cedar Brae Medical Center. But the new clinics will be named as Nafi Clinic, right? Uh, the slogan is, you know, health benefits all. Just like here, the slogan is education benefits all, right? Okay, so what happens is like you're sitting in Abu Dhabi, you're working in a Nafe, Abu Dhabi clinic, and all of a sudden you're able to see your workspace your domain, your authorization as per the IAM, Identity Access Management, is only based on where? It's based on Abu Dhabi because you're in Abu Dhabi, right? All the jurisdiction laws applies over there. All of a sudden, you saw data from European clinics. What would happen? What would the system do? What automated responses should occur using the things that you mentioned, which is OPA and Keycloak? Go. Start.
Open policy agent will show that this data cannot be accessed because this data belongs to a different region, and the access will be denied by the OPA, open policy agent.
Mhm.
And what was the another part of the question?
I mean, what responses should occur? So you mentioned OPA, and what other thing will kick in that you already told me about, which is part of the your presentation.
In
So you mentioned
access,
OPA should deny
yes,
access, right? It should deny
yes,
access immediately and say, no,
yes,
Mubashir,
yes.
you can't see this data. You just clicked on on the folder or on the file or on the report, and the report, you were trying to access it. What happens, right? Uh, so that one thing, and what other things will it automatically enables and kickstart to stop your access?
The key cloak identity and access management will come in the way, and they will, I mean, it will enforce that you are not authorized to access this.
Okay. You answer the question again, but it has to be done, Mubashir, in a way that you can provide it to your employers as well, right? Right? The goal is that you want to secure the best job, right?
Yes,
Or
yes.
even start your own company, whatever, inshallah, right? But you have to be presentable. Was that okay? There's the message. You have to be presentable to to the employers or to the investors. So you have to mention like this: OPA should deny access, trigger key cloak audit logging, and alert the compliance team via predefined webhook policy, demonstrating continuous enforcement and instant response integration. The question I asked you was, if an analyst accidentally receives EU personal data in a GCC workspace, what automated responses should occur? That these are some of the automated responses that should occur. Okay. Okay. Um, this is the level 6 exam. Two questions remaining, right? So we have to jump into the harder ones. Uh, how would you verify that a policy as a code deployment does not inadvertently block lawful intra-EU data flows? How would you do that?
Can you repeat the question?
How would you verify that a policy as a code deployment does not inadvertently block lawful intra-EU data flows? Intra-EU data flows means like going from it's flowing within EU. France, Germany, UK is not part of EU anymore. So France, Germany, Spain, all these European states, they are exchanging data, right? Right. So how would you verify that the PAC policy as a code deployment does not inadvertently block lawful intra-EU data? How would you do that?
I will ensure that correct metadata tagging is done. So the metadata tags are currently identified by the open policy agent, and those tags, basically the open policy agent will see those tags and then will verify that whether it can be accessed or not.
You know, we are doing some amazing work, and the company, Alhamdulillah, has reached the valuation of $125 million, right? So there's a lot of work we are doing. This morning, surprisingly, whenever I'm interviewing people, I always end up with the things that I'm doing internally within my own team, right? To see and evaluate how things are going forward, right? So I'm going to show you something. When you go out and you start working, what are the amount of things you have to see in order to get a better understanding, build up a better understanding of all the things, right? Because that will give you the perspective of working. When you go into the markets are very, very different, right? So I'm going to show you something. Hold on. मैं तुम्हें एक चीज़ दिखाता हूँ. This is how work is done, right? And let me tell you, the work is tough, right? So it's not easy. It is not easy. So let me show you. This is our Al-Basir architecture, right? Al-Basir data lake architecture. We are using Airbyte ETL engine, which is getting all the sources of data, internal sources one, two, third-party sources, Sentry, Kibana, TDO, all the things, external payments. It goes into the ETL. This is the pipeline. ETL gets all the extract, transform, load. That's what it means. Into the CDC processing, all the data is coming here. OPA is being used here. Policy as a code, open policy agents, all of these things. And then there's a ClickHouse. This is where like almost, the size of the data, 5 terabytes, and it's growing. This
Yeah.
we didn't became like a $125 million company like this. We have to build up our applications at that level. It took us time, right? So there's a lot of things. This is our ecosystem that enabled us to be at that level. See, this is the Al Basir. This is the eccentric. These are our patterns. So Al Basir. This is the AI powered data lake. This is where all the data is coming in. Data from EU, data from North American countries, data from GCC countries, data from Pakistan, from South Asian countries, from 160 countries plus. Then there's beacon intelligence. Then there's Al Muhaymin. This is Al Bathid. Project Al Bathid. Project solution name is Bathid. Al Muhaymin. Project Al Muhaymin. Solution name is Muhaymin. Guard Site AI GRC. Razak Talent Foundry. This is where you do all the labs. You know the labs that you're doing? This is where the labs
Yes.
are. Your data is in there. And we're building upon your persona, like what you're doing and how you're doing, right? Then there is Qawi, Al Qawi, which is Project Al Qawi. This is the military grade offensive and defensive training simulation. We don't give this to our students. This is only for military organizations. We'll give you some, don't worry. You will get some of those labs. And then Al Bari, real time signals, reliable decisions. This is our AI LLM, right? So there are six concentric layers, each building upon the previous, ensuring seamless integration of data, compliance, lab, defense, and decision intelligence, right? So when you go in the organization, these are the decisions you have to make, for a multi-cloud deployment, data consumers. We don't use Tableau, Power BI, but it supports. We use custom. Everything is custom, everything is homegrown, right? I asked them what are the hardware and software requirements for ClickHouse, outlined with all the options possible on-prem, cloud, and hybrid, right? Explain to me all the data sources for each of the boxes. These are my notes. So they provided me, you know, बच्चे जो है ना मुझसे करते हैं कि आपने फीस बढ़ा दी कॉस्ट देखो कॉस्ट उसकी ठीक है ना इसको चलाने की कॉस्ट देखो ये एक सोल्यूशन है एक सर्वर है एंड वी नीड एटलीस्ट 10 ऑफ देम राइट समझ आया
Yes.
इट्स वेरी एक्सपेंसिव सही है तो these are the providers we look into. Every provider is expensive. You see, AWS and Alibaba is the cheapest. Then it's
Yes.
AWS. Then it's GCP. Then it's Azure. Spot pricing, but we cannot run spot on spot pricing. because spot is available, कभी होता है कभी नहीं होता. You will learn all of these things, right? ठीक है ना. अगर हम रिजर्व करते हैं, रिजर्व तो हम यूज करें ना करें, we pay the price, right? So we're building up, on what? We are building up everything on M4 architecture. This is our M4 architecture. हम सब चीज़ें M4 के ऊपर बना रहे हैं, right? So that's another thing, because these are reliable machines which keeps on working, right? So I'm just giving you an example. When you go for the interview, these are the questions जो तुमसे पूछे जाएंगे. You have to be prepared to answer these questions. Okay? All right. So let's jump in and go in deeper for the one final time. So you're hired as a data governance engineer. Okay? An auditor asks for proof. In order to ask for proof, you're looking at your presentation. In order to ask for proof for your multi-cloud infrastructure, follows adequacy principle, right? You mentioned adequacy principle, right? हमने उसका तस्करा किया ना अपनी presentation में. You mentioned that,
Yes.
right? Describe the evidence you would provide for satisfying this adequacy principle compliance requirement. What is it?
So these adequacy contracts, which is these are legally binding contracts, and these are basically European Union based contracts. These adequacy and SCCs, which is a standard contracts, standard, and so basically they check, they verify whether the data, whether they whether they have uh, whether they have the permission, authorization to access from outside region or not. So basically these contracts are done in advance, so as to reduce the time for making decisions whether data can be accessed or not.
So the question was, you're hired as a data governance engineer, and an auditor walks in and asks for proof that your multi-cloud infrastructure follows adequacy principles. Describe the evidence you would provide, right? That was my question. The answer is going to be the export atlas lineage graphs that you mentioned in your presentation, the OPA policy repositories with version history, the Terraform state files showing regional segmentation, key cloak, audit logs, key management services, encryption records. All of these things will collectively demonstrate data sovereignty and adequacy compliance. That was the answer. You have to learn a lot, Mubashir. Okay? Exams are tough. Things are getting tougher, right? As you can see, when we start taking the exams, the bar is going up and up, right?
Yes.
Right? You have to do, people ask me for Al Razak job placement. If you do the Al Razak labs given to you will get the job placement. But by the time you're finished, you'll be done. You'll be able to answer every question that is coming towards you for multiple job opportunities that you can apply for. That we will assist you. How I'm interviewing is roughly how that is that's the high intensity. How the employers will be interviewing, that will be 50% of it. Let me tell you. You are being interviewed by a CTO and a CIO, which is tough because I'm a CTO, CIO. That's how I think, right? That's how I behave and that's how I act because that's how I've been leading the company. So I'm not like just a CEO. I'm a CEO, a CIO, and a CTO, all three combined, right? And a CISO. So we are looking for people to remove some of the burden from me. But right now, I have to lead the company until those people come in and they will be coming in soon, inshallah. But the point is that when you go for the organization, if you can pass my interview, you can pass any interview, inshallah, right? But you have to be prepared for all of those things.
Yes,
That's
yes.
why I'm telling every student go and do the Al Razak labs, because in the Al Razak labs you will learn everything and it will prepare you better. Okay. All right. So okay, exam is over. Okay. Would you like to know your score? How was the exam?
Yes. Exam was tough. Yes.
Exam was tough.
Yes.
How are the labs when you're doing the labs? How are
Labs
those?
are very, very knowledgeable. Very, very knowledgeable.
The more you do it, these are the
Yes.
some, as you go forward, you will see basic labs, intermediate labs, advanced labs, challenge labs,
Yes.
expert labs, and gen challenge labs, right? So these are five kinds of labs. The system, as I showed you the diagram, the system is collecting all the data going into the Al Basir data lake, right? So that's where all the action is happening, right? The action is happening all here, right? So it's a, and we have multiple replicas for all of those things. If I have to show you the presentation again, right? See, so uh, there are sync Albasi data lake RDS, right? So this is where auto sync, high availability, auto scaling, performance trend, all of these things are happening here. This is the biggest, and as I said, the requirement. If I show you the requirement, right? Look at the storage requirement. 4 terabyte. See, up there, the storage requirement is around 5 terabytes for 15 connections. The connections are, so I asked them all the questions, the pushing and the pulling. These are my notes for how long the storage will be used, like the life of the data. There are many things, right? So I push, and this morning I warned them that if they don't do this thing properly, they will be fired from their position. I'm a very tough boss when it comes to work. Otherwise, I'm alhamdulillah very lenient. मैं बहुत ख्याल करता हूँ सबका सब कुछ ठीक है ना. But when it comes to work, I'm very strict. So, uh, in your presentation, you secured 18 out of 25, which is 72%. There were no diagrams. You presented it well, good communication skills and everything. But again, if you would have added some diagrams, you would have scored higher. Okay. In the Q&A, you secured 17 out of 25, right? Only in 3 questions you secured full marks, 2.5. Other ones, 1, 2.5. You struggled, right? You struggled in those things. So that was, if I have to calculate, right? You secured 68 in your Q&A, right? 68%. The final exams score combined is 70%. You have passed your RQF level 6 diploma.
Alhamdulillah.
Okay, alhamdulillah. But this is just the beginning. We are removing the Viva part. We are making the labs, right? Where you have to go and do the labs more and more and more. Okay. Our emphasis is going to be placed more heavily on the labs, because the labs are preparing you and they're also preparing you for the interview and all of those things. So you have to prepare yourself to make sure that you can pass them. Okay. ये मेरा मशवरा है. This is what you should do. Do you plan to go to UK or USA or anywhere in any of these countries?
Currently, currently, I intend to work in Karachi.
Intend to work in Karachi? Finish the labs.
Yes.
EIOPS,
Yes.
when is your EIOPS expiring? Your subscription?
February.
You still have time. तुम्हारे पास
Yes.
time है. Go and do all the labs you can. Now February तक तुम्हारे पास सारी labs तो नहीं खुलेंगी, ठीक है ना? But you will get enough 7-8 months की labs.
Hmm.
तुम्हारी KYC की labs भी तुम्हें मिल जाएंगी. You will get your KYC labs as well. That will help you tremendously, inshallah. Okay? Go and do those. The labs are the key to securing the job. Okay, inshallah. That's the most important thing.
Inshallah.
Complete those, inshallah. May Allah make it easy for you. Uh, Good job.
Inshallah.
You passed the exam. We don't take into consideration what you did in the other subjects. This is completely assessed in a different manner, right? Uh, you were able to answer many questions, but again, you were providing the answers not in a unified manner, right? So you need more preparation. If you do that, look at the other interviews that other people have went through, right? So they went through the interviews in a different way. I think, are you having some kind of problem with the internet or something? So this is being recorded so you can go back and watch it, inshallah. May Allah give you success. May Allah give you, make things easier for you, Mubashir, inshallah.
Yes,
Okay,
inshallah.
inshallah. And I will see you soon. I will be coming to Pakistan, inshallah. But do the labs, complete all
Inshallah.
the labs, and then get your resume. Once you complete the labs, then we will give you the resume. The first resume is given after 6 months, and the second resume is given after 12 months of doing Al Razak, right? Inshallah. Al Razak is the core, Al Razak is the key. Al Razak, what does Al Razak means? The one who provides sustenance, right?
Yes.
Allah who provides sustenance. The project name is Al Razak. The solution name is Razak, right? So it is evaluating you and it is giving you the feedback, right? So completely keep on doing all of those things. Inshallah, may Allah give you success. Ask your parents to make dua for me. Allahumma
Inshallah.
and fil masjid al-Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I will see you soon. Jazakallah khair. Subhanakallahumma bihamdika. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta